To the May Design series, and for this, which is our second seminar on the future of the working environment, this time focusing on evolving product design. We have a panel of experts here. We've got Mark Catchler from Herman Miller, George Miller Ramos from Gensler, and Chris Van Hout from Proof. We've asked each panel member to put together a short presentation about themselves and their practice as a bit of an intro. After that, we'll have a more informal discussion and conversation with questions where you guys can hopefully find out more about what they do and why they do it. If you find you have any questions whilst they're speaking, please keep a note of them because we'll have a question session at the end. Okay. First up, we've got Chris.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Do you hear me clear? Also in the back, it's always a thing. Yes, very good. My name is Chris. I'm representing Proof, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction about Proof before we go into kind of the discussion. And before I'm going to introduce Proof, I'm curious about who brought today at least one mobile device? Please raise your hand if so. At least one. It seems almost everybody raised their hand. The second thing is that think about your neighbor 20, 25 years ago. Do you think your neighbor, and raise your hand if so, brought a mobile device 20, 25 years ago? Who thinks so? Not that many. Actually, no one thought. This is the thing. While looking into the future of product design, we think it is very important to look at the back as well. We believe, and I believe, that me personally, as a human being, I am a product of my parents, and I'm evolving, and so do our products. And therefore, for our practice, it is very important to see, okay, where are we coming from? Where do we want to head to? And where are we at this single moment? A bit about Proof. Proof is defined by innovative spatial furniture design for the progressive office. And what does it mean? I'm going to explain you a little bit further. For the communication areas, the open spaces, and the public domain. And to give you some examples of what do we mean by that, I'm going to show you a few of our products. Actually, I'm going to show you the whole collection. I have to stand here. This has been our first product, one of our groundbreaking products. Hopefully I get the chance to speak a little bit more about it later on. Being designed by famous Dutch designer Jurgen Bij. Here you can see what we believe the open space, the public domain, and using the product in a different way. I'm going to go quite brief into or through this to give you an idea about Proof collection. Here you see like the work sofa. It's a product with different puzzle pieces you can put together. The foam box, what we call a niche, to be able to work in the open space, to have more privacy. What is a big challenge nowadays in the open space is like acoustics and privacy, and that's what we are trying to find solutions for. The sit table, being designed by a famous architect, he is Dutch as well. We are a Dutch practice, Ben van Berkel. Here you can see it in example. And our latest product, which is like working on 1 square meter, focusing on your kind of mobile device or your work at that single moment. Proof, being different as not being a manufacturer. What do we want to say about that is that we feel as Proof being a spider in the web between the architect, between the interior designer, between the markets, between the users, and also having contact with the manufacturer, because we are not the manufacturer by ourselves. We have our manufacturers around us, and that's what we see as a benefit as well, because you have the knowledge and you are able to share all the different knowledges from the different practices. We believe as well is that it's not about the profit, but it is about the benefit. And what we mean by that is that the products should be there for the users. The user should be the one benefiting from what we are designing. And we believe that if this single person, or if you are using one of our products and you are able to grow, we believe that your practice, your company, or whatever you are working on will grow as well. Then looking into the future, and where we see there's a massive change of technology, and that's what we have seen with the first kind of two questions which I asked you. And looking into the future, we believe that we are all more able to communicate and interact with people from abroad. I mean, most of us, I guess, are doing it on daily base, and at the same time, multinational, but also multi-disciplinary teams where you can share the knowledge, what I said as well about our practice being the spider in the web, to be able to develop in that way your company and products as well. It is funny that it is about the future of product design and evolving product design. And what we believe in, and I want to challenge you as well in that way, is the best way to predict the future is to create it. And I hope you can join us as well in creating the nearby future. Nice to meet you. Thank you for now.
Thanks for that, Chris. Next up, we've got George. And yours is the video, is that right?
Yeah, we'll start with the Hi, my name is George Miller Ramos. I'm an architect with Gensler, and amongst some of my responsibilities within the firm is to run the product design practice area across all the offices. It's very probable that not many of you knew that Gensler did product design, and in fact it's something we've been doing for quite some time, probably for the last 20 years. It's just in the last couple of years that we've actually been organized in a more cohesive group. We are one of the largest design firm, well, if not the largest design firm in the world, and it's a bit of a geographical positioning of where we are now. We are at the moment 44 offices, 3,500 employees, and one of the main things that I wanted to talk to you about is a bit about the process and the products, which is a fantastic. Well, it's a very large catalog. What we have right now, and it's like an architecture company with a catalog, with a furniture catalog. So I'm competing with these guys right now. But there you can see a matrix of the content. It's actually a very varied catalog because of the kind of work that we do, because of the different clients that we have. Right now we have 22 practice areas. That's anything that goes from product design all the way to commercial office buildings, architecture, master planning, branding and graphics, you name it. When you have 3,000 plus people, you end up with a collective intelligence. That's actually how we see ourselves. And the way for us, for product design, or the people that do product design within the firm, we actually leverage that network in the best possible way, always thinking about the end user. This is not about doing the chair that is going to make it to the Vitra Museum. That's not what we want to do. We actually want to do things that are meaningful to you and meaningful to everybody out there, to make, to actually make an impact and make a difference in the world. Out of all the projects that we have, There is a couple interesting things, and we'll probably get into a little bit more later. And Mark and I, we've been having some discussions lately about the future and evolving product design, that kind of things. In my position in the firm, I've been asked also to look at, what's coming up, what's 2015 looking like, what's 2020 looking like, and honestly, I do not know. It's everything that goes really fast. The product design is becoming so fast, it's almost like fashion. So every 6 months, every year, every Milan Furniture Fair, every Orgatech, there is something new that's coming up. So there's some new and emerging technology, and we try to incorporate those things to give a proper response to our client. One of the things that I wanted to show you, because if I go through the whole catalog, we'll be here all day. It's a lot of product. So it's not so much about that. Some of that has been done a while back, so some of it is a bit dated. So this is the past of product design. The future of product design is one we're working on now, which is those products that are meaningful to you. I wanted to show a little bit of a video, and this is one of our most recent projects. This was done for a company called Halcon in the United States. They're a very small company, but they've been associated with Hayworth for a while, and now they became independent again. And we actually get a lot of requests. People come knocking in our doors because of this collective intelligence that we have to help companies create new product. A lot of these companies, there's a few British companies as well, they're companies that were not very well known by the quality of the products that they did before, so they are at the moment sort of peering over the parapet, and it's a very broad world of products out there. And they want us to help them, design something that can position them in a, give them access to a new, a new area in the market. And this goes beyond working with us, which to some degree gives you access to 3,500 specifiers. And I'm trying to get this video to work, but true to form, media is not. There we go. So this is what we did for Halcon, and it's a very small table. It's a training table, and the idea this actually came out of some of the research that we've done in our office, and the shrinking footprint of law firms, especially in the United States, where you're required to have a very simple design, something that can also double as a boardroom. So when you have a boardroom and you have a training space, you can actually use this system to configure it, and you get 2 spaces out of 1. So it's a very, very simple. The idea here was almost like a detail-less design, but with a lot of clever engineering to solve the problems of the office. So again, this is now the past. This is 2011. The stuff that we're working on now, I wish I could bring some of those things and show you, but it's a bit of a confidentiality issue with disclosing what's coming up, because we're in a furniture show, so let's face it. But there's a number of interesting things that we're doing right now with Arper. It's an Italian company, and they're one of those companies that are now taking a big step into the world of design and coming up with a very strong brand. We're doing things with human scale in the United States. At the same time, we're also going beyond product as we see it, as furniture per se, but also working with, movable partitions with Permastelisa. We're doing a number of, a little bit slightly different dimension of the traditional product design, and trying to deal with all these different scales. So it's an interesting challenge, and there will be more of that going on today.
Thanks, George. Mark Catchlove.
Hi, is this working? Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Good. My name's Mark Catchlove, and I'm with a company called Herman Miller, and I have a quite an interesting role. My role is not about product design, it's about people. I'm director of the Insight Group, so I commission research about you, about how people use the office, and I share that research around the world to anyone that's prepared to listen. If we can lock them in a room, then I can talk to them. And the idea is then to inform our product design. So the kind of research that interests us at Herman Miller. And by the way, Herman Miller are a $1.5 billion furniture manufacturer, but we still manufacture in the UK, and we are building a new factory in the UK in the next 2 years. So it's pretty exciting times. You know, it's even though we still manufacture in China for the Asian market, we are going to be carrying on and employing 300 people in a factory in the West Country, which is all good news. But the role here is we manufacture furniture for healthcare, for offices, for education, and for the home as well. But the kind of stuff that interests us and that influences our design is that we have done some research. It's called People, Place, Potential. How do you design offices and products that help people reach their full potential? And we've kind of given ourselves 6 challenges. The 6 challenges are this. We have to design products to help people work together when they need to, okay? I'm kind of fed up of hearing forcing people working together, but it is about working together when you need to. Helping people work anywhere, and that's anywhere within the building, and that could be at home, that could be in between those third spaces. The other challenge that we see is supporting the technology. Any of you that have tried to integrate technology, give up. It's not worth it because it's going to change. Any of you that are working on a project that's 2 years away, you don't even know the technology that's going to be in that project. So our role with our company that's a part of the Herman Miller Group, Colbert, Boston and Saunders, is to support technology and make it work. The other thing that we're continually challenged with is to be environmentally friendly. And in 1954, the founder of Herman Miller, a guy called DJ Dupree, said that we will be good stewards of the environment. I would love to think that sustainability's gone off the agenda because we've all got it solved. Unfortunately, we know that's not the case. And we've got a lot of work to do in that area. The other thing, any products that we design, any spaces that we work on, have to help people engage. And what I mean by that is give people a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, that they're seen as an investment. They're seen as the valued. In fact, people are the most expensive spend of any company. So how do you design product and spaces that make people feel engaged? And finally, we do know that it is about the bottom line as well. And the products that we design help clients design real estate so it works even harder for them. How do they make real estate effective? Because real estate is the second most expensive spend of the clients. So how do we design products that meet those needs? So the kind of areas that we look at are, I look at things like how do you design spaces to increase a sense of belonging, social capital, increase innovation, help with flexible working. And one of the most exciting things that I've seen recently is a piece of work that we did in the psychology of collaboration spaces. I got fed up of hearing about collaboration in my own company and in the workplace world. And I saw a video, and I absolutely recommend it to you, by a lady called Susan Cain, which is The Power of the Introvert. 30% of your people are introverts, and yet we design offices for people like me, extroverts. And collaboration spaces need to be designed to think that in place. We were also asked to think about the future of work. And I just wanted to say to you, I don't know the future of work. I just wanted to read to you something that was written by a Herman Miller designer in 1968. These were the challenges that Herman Miller was facing then. We have to deal with the constant state of radical change, the grow or die state of organizations, design offices as a thinking place, incorporate health and vitality, manage the privacy versus involvement conflict, manage the war of communication devices, manage geometry versus humanism, and deal with the big communications accident. 1968, and we still haven't solved it. So there's a lot of work to be done. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, gents, for your wonderful presentations. We're going to do a bit more of an informal sort of, not quite a debate, hopefully, more of a conversation about some of the things that you've talked about so far, and hopefully some new things as well. Mark, if I'm right, you've been around for, not you personally, your company's been around for about almost 100 years. And Proof sort of 8-10 years? Okay. I just wonder within that sort of variation of ages, what the degree of development or rate of change you've had to accommodate has been, and how you've gone about doing that.
I think one of the things that we've done, you may love or hate the cubicle, but it was invented by Herman Miller in 1968, which is what that document was written about. But one of the things that we've done since then is we never use Herman Miller designers. We use Herman Miller design managers, but to keep us fresh and alert, we always use external designers. We don't want them to know what our factory can do, because the minute they know what our factory can do, it limits their mind. So one of the things that's kept us fresh is external research and external product designers from around the world. 20 years ago, we were very, very US-centric. You know, white, middle-class, middle-aged designer from the Midwest. That has changed. And it is very much about global design. And the other thing that has influenced us, we're an American-owned company, but the influence from the rest of the world coming back to the US has changed the way that we think as well.
Just to be clear how long Proof exists, it's just 3 years, just 3 years, a separate entity, but it's been kind of born out of another Dutch company which exists for 35 years, and because of that company saw at a certain point a lack in solutions within the open space, the communication areas, etc. Proof is being founded, and the first product was 10 years ago. So that's the thing. Maybe we got inspired by how Herman Miller did by consulting designers, and that's how we do it as well. We also believe that they are the ones being able to really design something which we, from the business perspective, are not able to come up with. And we believe, as I said in my introduction as well, is that we should find ways to accommodate and facilitate and meet very often with the designers. And to give an example is that Jurgen Bij is the director of our Proof Lab. It's a laboratory which we have where we do this research. So it's not being done by us, but it's being done by the designers. And that's something which changed in the past years.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is that Mark just said is we're actually sort of not exploring, but like coming to realize that we are designing products globally. Ideally, we would like to manufacture locally and then configure them individually. So, you know, there is a collective from designers from around the world looking at all these different problems, tackling specific situations in specific countries or regions. Ideally, those products will be manufactured in those places. Let's say if it is Herman Miller, you know, in England, manufactured in England for England. Same thing in China, manufactured in China for China. And it's also one of the things we're also looking at is, you know, designing for the Chinese market as opposed to, you know, China copying other things in China for the Chinese market. They have very specific conditions. Same thing with India, for instance. Brazil is another country that is also exploring that as well, where manufacturers actually have to take their factories there or they face really high taxes. And the individual configuration is down to us. I mean, we are the center, we're the ultimate user. So we should be able in the future or now to take on these products and make them work for us, as opposed to deal with something some designer gave me because, you know, he thought that was, you know, the greatest thing. It's one of those things that, you know, we have to deal with.
Thank you. From your backgrounds and from your sort of company profiles, it's quite clear that there's quite a crossover between product design and architecture. So Gensler is obviously an architecture practice also. You do design and interiors. You've worked with some of the best kind of Dutch architects for your product design. And I wonder what sort of impact that has on the process or perhaps the credibility of the products. Mark, you said that you use external designers in order to keep things fresh, which makes sense, obviously. And I wonder, George, if your interiors department always specifies your own products or not?
No.
No.
No. Oh, come on, how many designers are in the room? A lot of them, right? It's bloody hard to get you guys to do what somebody else, tells you to do. You all have your own minds. You all do what you think, it's within you to, you go for and do it, right? So the last thing I can do right now is tell my designers, this is the Gensler product catalog. We design everything. We get royalties for it, so specify it. That just doesn't work.
Does it work the other way around then? Do they help you identify needs in the market?
Yeah, they're quite keen on that. They know what they want. So from that end, we do get a lot of feedback from our designers to tell us, yeah, we want to have this, we want to have that. We're looking for this stuff. It doesn't exist in the market yet, and that's where the success of our practice is, and that's what we've done. There's a full catalog of products because we are constantly identifying gaps in the market, and if you think they aren't there, trust me, they are. The challenge with the designers, though, is then because we are all so individual, it's very difficult to enforce anything like that. So when a manufacturer comes to us thinking, oh, I'm going to get a product against their product and I'm going to have access to all the specifiers, well, you're going to get visibility. Everybody's going to know that you did something for us, especially if it wins an award or something like that. But it doesn't guarantee specification at all. And by the way, if you expect to make all your profits out of Gensler specification, you're in big trouble. Because there's a wider, we are not, we want to, well, every designer wants to be the center of the design universe, but we're not. It's a constellation. There's a lot of people out there that do these things. So you want to keep a bigger picture.
And Chris, how did the collaboration with Jürgen Bay, my accent's not as good as yours, Jürgen, something like that. You said he's the director of your lab.
Exactly.
How does that relationship kind of work?
Well, he's been involved for about 12, 15 years within the startup of Proof as well. And that's because a big insurance company in the Netherlands, Interpolis, they were developing their offices. They wanted to hire or consult a designer in that way and in that phase as well. And that's been a process between Interpolis, the company where Proof found its birth from, and Jürgen, and that's where the collaboration started as well. And that's also where we saw that there was and there is still a need within I would say the way to, maybe not collaborate. I see it as collaboration and sharing knowledge between the different backgrounds and between the different mindsets. I can also say that, for example, working with the architecture company UN Studio from Ben van Berkel, they are designing the exterior where they are also facing and have to translate towards the interior, and that's where we also see a source of what kind of products needs to be developed and what are the themes to work around. And that's basically what Jürgen, we pronounce the G a bit harder, I'm sorry. But that's a bit what Jürgen is doing as well with the Proof Lab, where we defined themes and where we give different designers and architects the opportunity to design something around a certain theme.
Thank you. Mark, you talked about the almost impossibility of planning for changes in technology. So don't even bother trying to integrate it, because trying to support it instead. And I wonder how that affects your, as a manufacturer as well as a design company. how quickly you try to turn around a new design project. So from identifying a need from potentially your architect, your designer, to getting it out onto the market.
And that is, we're a big fat American company, and that's hard. That's the difference between us and Proof. That is always the challenge, because don't forget, we are trying to make that as a global product as well. So you've then got all the local legislation in China, in Holland, which is different to Germany, so all of that. And it can take, we are previewing at Neocon products which aren't going to be ready for another year. And so it is very tough, which is why you then have to think about supporting future technology rather than embedding, a CD drive, which I've seen in some products, or, let's try and put some USB. Well, USB won't be around in a few years. It's that kind of thing. So it is about supporting technology, and sometimes it's the add-on accessories that you can change quicker rather than the core product.
Sure. Anyone else?
It's actually on the issue of technology, because we've been looking at that when the board of directors asked us to look at the future product design, because we got this question just recently. One of the things that's coming up, I don't know if you probably have heard of Web 3.0 or the semantic web or the Internet of Everything. And something that is very, very likely to make it to products in the future is their ability to interact with the user. Anything, because now circuitry can get so small, so embedded on everything that you can put it on, on the bottle of water, on the chair that you're sitting, on the floor that you're walking on, and all of that we start gathering information and feeding that information to other products that, let's say within the same working environment, or to yourself, so it will give you information about what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, and all of a sudden it starts to become a little more intuitive way of communication. It's not going to get to like Terminator or anything like that, but it's getting there. Technology is moving so fast that those just fail.
Perfect timing. I'd like to ask a bit more about your research kind of profiles and how, first of all, how you go about that. I know that Herman Miller did some research with Ben from the previous talk about user engagement at the design brief stage. And I wonder how, again, how long and what the process is to convert that into something actually usable. Anyone?
For Ben that you saw earlier, we provided money. Sometimes it's just sponsorship of the Helen Hamlin, whereas other times we kind of you see what are some of the trends, and you commission someone that can be anyone from an anthropologist to a sociologist to a psychologist. So the person that did the collaboration research was a psychologist and workplace psychologist. And we have our own research that just, one guy, Brian, traveled around the world for 2 months just observing how people are working. So it can be good old-fashioned.
I can do that.
Yeah, yes, no problem. And then the latest thing, of course, is what George is doing, is that, how many of you are going to be prepared to be chipped? I mean, not physically, but to be monitored, because that's the next thing, is where we monitor what everyone's doing, and how do you then respond to that with products, furniture, and design of spaces. So that's kind of using the technology to support that.
What I'd like to say about this is that we all feel that when you enter a certain room or a certain space, you feel either comfortable or not. It very much depends on how the place is being kind of furnished as well. And what might be interesting from our point of view as well, because we believe that our collection is a certain kind of solution for something, but at the same time we believe that the most beautiful piece of furniture is space. And space in the way like, do we have enough space, and do I feel comfortable where I am at that single moment, and how can we support that with what we are doing?
I'm an architect, so I can talk all day. Actually, when it comes down to research, for us it's money. definitely. And Gensler, and I have a few friends in the industry, and we are by far the best at making money. You know, you get people that get great buildings, people that get, you know, we make a lot of money in a good way. And the companies, actually, we're in a position right now where our financial independence is allowing us to fund research projects from within. So this year we gave 79 grants of research. These are different pockets of money for areas that the company feels are important for our growth, or for a growth of a practice area, or sometimes even for individual growth. So we actually promote people to come and explore and you know, get their hands dirty. For our practice area, actually, two of the grants that we received last year was one for the integration of technology in the workplace, and another one for health, wellness, health and well-being as part of the product design. And one of the things that we are actually funding now, it's we also be given, because when, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Quoting Spider-Man, when you have the ability to influence a large part of the world, because we specify, we design it, we control it, or we have some control over it. One of the things that came from the board of directors was that we need to start tackling global problems. So for the practice area, one of the things that we're doing in product design is working with a company out of the States, Arena, headed by Michael Littenmeyer. He's a philanthropist, and you know, he's also funding the project to solve global sanitation. So one of the tasks that we have coming up is develop the $15 toilet, because right now half of the world, it's in dire need of you know, having something like that, because it doesn't exist.
So by having your kind of own in-house research sort of facilities, it must offer up a series of really innovative ideas that perhaps your competitors aren't privy to, which leads to my next question about, Mark, you mentioned, what's it called? No. You were talking about how there's certain things you can't tell us at the moment because of... That's the one, IP. What can you tell us about what you're working on?
Okay. And there is a lot of research that goes on that even it's not appropriate to talk about it. We look at the global differences. It's very difficult to go and talk about what's the difference between a Chinaman and an Italian without offending if you're not careful. But there are cultural differences, and you have to observe that as well as physical differences. So a lot of that would make interesting, you know, chat, but it's not necessarily the research, you know, that you want to share. But that informs a lot of our products. You know, we sell bigger chairs in America than we do in Europe. Now, if you're an American, I'm sorry if I've offended you, but that's the reality. We sell smaller chairs in Asia, you know, and that's one area. The other, I don't know that we know anything that anyone else doesn't know. And in fact, for me, it is no longer what you know. It's what you do with what you know. And that's the skill of these guys here and the people they work with. It's no longer the knowledge, it's how you apply that knowledge. And I think that's the skill. It's not the research, it's what you do with the research that makes the difference.
So what's the... Chris, I know that one of your first products, the ear chair, is that something that you're continuing to work on at the moment, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. We... what do you mean with continue working with?
You're still selling them. Are you still redesigning and
yes.
improving, or?
Yes, no, we definitely, and it's been sold all over the world, and it's very interesting to see the reactions on the air chair as well, where it's in some way. Last week I had a German company, and they said, I thought it was a joke when I saw this product. And I said, well, I hope it was a good one. But have you been trying? Have you been really using it as well? And he said, yes, when I did, I felt the real difference. And it's, for me, it's also a kind of combination between, I would say, architecture and product design, a product with walls and almost a ceiling integrated. So yes, we are still selling them.
There's been a lot of talk about what collaboration actually means, whether we can design for it or encourage it or indeed affect it at all. We've also talked about the idea of co-creation and sort of flexibility. Your video about flexibility has been kind of a huge focus of not just office design, but kind of all living space design for the last at least decade. And I wonder what you guys might be able to help us with in terms of what might be the focus for the next decade. Will it continue to be flexibility, or might it be something else?
And I think it will continue to be personalization. I'm going to upset George now and use the term hackable spaces. He hates that term, but that's what we're starting to look at, is how do you start adapting to how you want to work. Not unlike the products that George has designed, we're going to see a lot more personalization and tailoring of spaces that it's going to have to change very quickly, from a project room to a meeting room to a formal space to an informal space. And it will be about choice. And the term that's overused, but I think describes it very well, is activity-based working. Where do you need to go to do what you need to do today? And that isn't always going to be your desk. It could well be around one of those meeting tables that George has designed, or in one of those chairs that Proof have designed, but it's not always the desk and chair. But for me, it is going to be flexibility is going to continue. But come back in 10 years and we would have invented another 50 buzzwords by then.
Yeah.
Could you pass it on to me so I could say something else? But
All done? Okay, well, thank you for the summary for everybody. I've been told that it's about time to wrap up, so thank you very much, Chris from Proof, George from Gensler, and Mark from Herman Miller. Now it's your turn, guys. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask the panel, just raise your hand. One in the front.
Hi there, my name's David. I'm just wondering, do you have any projects that you're most proud of and why?
That's kind of like picking your favorite son type thing, right? Well, we show you Halcon, the table. Before that, we actually, it's really difficult to choose from those. Right now, actually, some of the projects that there are some things that is coming up that I can. Are you with a manufacturing company?
Yes.
Okay, I can't tell you about. So, no, let's say the Halcon table, for example. It was a collaboration between two offices, Chicago and London. It was designed for the American market, and it was a very good example of cross-office collaboration, the utilization of some of the research that we've done within Gensler in terms of the Workplace Performance Index, which is a research, an ongoing research that we have. It's a live project. So yeah, it would be something like that.
quite recently, we've been exhibiting at Tortona in Milan together with UN Studio. And UN Studio, they did design one of our products. We did exhibit in one big open space, and for us it was putting in practice what we believe is that it is about collaboration, it is about sharing knowledge, it is about what Mark just said as well, not about the research, but we have to find ways to facilitate the knowledge we have and how we can share it together. And therefore we are very proud that we made it also happen, because it was quite a challenge. Normally you are, or most of the companies, they exhibit by themselves with your own identity, but now there was a merge, and it was very good to work together along the process and see the different results.
It's not a particular project, but I would say I've been at Herman Miller for 15 years. 15 years ago, we were so US-centric. You know, it was and the rest of the world. And I think, for me, the most exciting thing is that we now make product in the UK and ship it to the US. And that is kind of and designed in the UK. So I just think that, for me, is the exciting thing. It's not as US-centric as it was, although still 70% of our turnover is still in the US. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Oh, I've got one last one then. I wondered what sort of, you talk about how still quite a large proportion of your trade comes from the US. I'm wondering about, I'm wondering about whether for you guys you find the same. What sort of proportion of your sort of sales and interest, let's say, comes from the continent versus Europe?
I can say that still at this moment the Dutch market is our biggest market, and what we see is that they are also very upfront in the way like activity-based working, new ways of working, or what kind of term you want to use in this way. But what we see is that Scandinavian countries, there's quite a big interest from the Scandinavian countries, but also at the other side of the world, New Zealand and Australia. We are working there for a few years now, and interest is also coming from Japan, Korea, and Asia, Asian countries.
Yeah, from our end, a lot of the design is happening. We have powerhouses of design within Gensler, because not every office, 44 offices, there's a lot of variety. So let's say Chicago has a very good base of product design. New York has a very good base of product design. London has a very good base of product design. We are fostering one in LA. We're fostering one in China. So the idea is actually to become more and more global, just to take that reach as far as you can and grow the practice on all the other offices so everybody can benefit from it.
Thank you. If that's it for the questions, then I'd just like to say a huge thank you to the panel. Chris, George and Mark, thank you very much.